Welcome back. Here's the prompt that we're both gonna use. You have it attached, and in terms of detail, it's a 6 out of 10. If you take this natural sounding prompt and you try to improve it in ChatGPT, you're gonna get a prompt that's far more technical. Typically, that helps, but a complicated prompt might be a bit overwhelming, so I decided to stick to something that sounds natural. We walk, then we run. One of the main issues is this. I say blue and white, but usually I would provide color codes. You gotta be specific. Blue can mean anything from a super light baby blue to a dark, intense navy blue. So keep that in mind. The more detail you include, the better the result. I want to remind you that even if you do everything exactly like me, your website is gonna look different than mine. That's just how these models work. But I can promise you that you will have different issues from the one that I'm gonna have. I don't have a crystal ball, but I've been at this for long enough to know that that's inevitable. Issues are gonna come up and they're gonna be of all sorts. Okay, set up a new folder and a new project in Cursor, the basics. Please make sure you have everything set up, like we did in the first part of the course. GitHub, Python, Node.js, the works. Speaking about tech, I decided to tell the model a few things, that it should use Next.js and Tailwind, Resend for the form, and then GitHub and Vercel. And here's why I did that. At the beginning, you start off with a very basic, vague prompt, the likes of make me a website, right? And then you see what the smarter models recommend, what they use. We already saw how some of them chose basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, while others recommended something a bit more robust, a bit more technical, exactly what I wrote here, Next.js and so on. If the model that you prefer wants to use this tech stack, if you see a pattern, then make a note of it and the next time around, suggest it. That's exactly what I did here. And I also did the following. I spoke to a few coders and I just asked, okay, why Tailwind? Why not this one or that one? Why React? Why not this or that? And in short, everyone seems to have their own preference. Some people like BMW, Pepsi, and Android. Other people like Mercedes, Dr. Pepper, and iOS. Who's right? Obviously nobody. It's what you prefer. And it's somewhat the same thing here. Now, the next thing about the prompt, I asked for something called the PRD, a Product Requirements Document. This is so the model can clearly tell us what's about to happen. The PRD sounds fancy, but it's sort of a checklist, so you know where we're at. So that's the PRD. It doesn't hurt, so always include it. Next, I want to add some images. While we could use an MCP to download some automatically, I think that's overkill, that's too much. Instead, I did this, unsplash.com. I selected a few photos that would work for a vet. Then I switched to people for the reviews. Very basic, very standard. So after you set up your project on your drive, you should copy the address of those photos and paste it in the main prompt. We have two places, here and here. Good stuff. Now just to be clear, you download photos from Unsplash, you put them inside the folder anywhere, and then we're gonna have to move this folder from my desktop to the place where Cursor is set up, to where this specific project is set up. Now in my case, I opened up this folder and that's where we have to paste the images. Now to get an address from any location, you have to use this area. This is quite easy to get. For the reviews, it's the exact same thing. You get the path and then you copy it inside the prompt. Okay, the rest of the prompt is actually quite basic. The only major thing that I'm asking for is a form to make appointments. But the form doesn't have any advanced functionality. I didn't include a drop-down for the services that the client might want. I didn't include the hour. The hour would require us to know the doctor's appointments, his entire schedule. So I chose the simplest version. Plus, I added a phone number so they can pick up calls that way as well. The idea is this. You could potentially sell this website. As long as they have someone answering their phones and email, a basic contact form will do the job. The website will be functional. the cabinet can call back the client and ask him for a lot more information and set up an appointment that way. So I want to be clear, this website can work even in its basic, simplest version, though to be fair, you can always add more features and functionality. And you can use this foundation and adapt it to any other type of niche, to restaurants, lawyers, anything that you can think of. So yeah, that's the prompt. It's time to get to work. For this project, I'm gonna use Claude 4 because I quite like its personality. No matter what you choose on your end, you are gonna get a lot of issues that might not show up on my end, so please be patient, try to debug and ask for help. You're gonna see that your patience is one of the main keys to your success. Now let's get started. It's off to the races. The model says it's gonna make a professional vet clinic landing page, okay, and it's now checking the assets. Assets simply means resources, or more specifically in our case, images. Next, it's gonna make the PRD, the document where we're gonna see all the essentials about the project. And yep, here we go. It ranges from overview to objectives to tech stack. And here we see Next.js, Tailwind, Resend, Vercel, GitHub, the works. And it's not like we know these things, right? But this is confirmation that we are on the right track and the model understood us. And if we do have to use Google to fix any issues, these details might help. Now I'm gonna speed up the recording quite a lot from time to time because Claude 4 is quite thorough and intelligent, but here's the thing, at times it's really slow. One funny thing is that in the PRD, I noticed something that's a bit of a red flag. It put in the wrong year. It said that this was created back in 2024, which obviously doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the model is hard at work. If you look in the left panel, you're gonna see that this area is starting to grow, to expand, more and more files. One funny thing, you may see various errors, various issues, but the model seems to know about them. Now, you would expect that artificial intelligence would write perfect code, but no, even the AI gets it wrong, at least at this stage. I'm sure that as time goes on, this is gonna get better and better. If you're old enough to have used Windows 95 or 98, and you now compare it to the latest Windows release, or more than that, a recent macOS version, it's night and day, right? It's gonna be the exact same thing here, from Winamp to Spotify. But here's the thing, as long as the model knows about these issues and it fixes them itself, then we don't really care about it, right? It's not a problem for us. We're just sipping on a cup of coffee and waiting for it to finish, so overall it's all good even with these errors. Now some files take a bit longer than expected, but I think that's because they're quite big. With this model and tech stack, that's to be expected actually. And it's a good idea to have a look through them and see what's inside them. You can do that with a single click in the left panel. Click on any file and it's gonna open up here. The central part works with tabs, exactly like your browser. So it's nice and easy to move around. One of the biggest issues you're gonna get in bigger, more serious projects is with the file size. In short, in simple terms, the bigger the files, the harder it is to maintain and update it. Now, better said, you're much better off editing 3 files that are 300 lines of code versus one single file that's 900 lines of code. For whatever reason, this really trips up the model. In our cursor rules, we do mention something about that, to having short files, but the model doesn't always take it into account. And on the flip side, in some cases, it's really not possible to concentrate everything within 300 lines. So that's something that you may struggle with later on in your career as a vibe coder. Now my advice, start with smaller, simpler projects and again have patience. And that's because we're getting serious updates every other week or so. It's just a matter of time until these become smarter and smarter, and this experience is gonna be magical. It's not gonna be with so much headaches. One thing to be aware of, when the model is gonna finish its job, because we've used that tech stack, that technology, we are gonna have a local server. This means we won't have a single index file through which we can test the website. So there's no index file that we're gonna use. No, instead, we're gonna get an address that's gonna start with localhost. Now, I'm not gonna get technical, it really doesn't matter all that much. What you need to know is that the initial version of the website is only gonna work on your computer. You're not gonna be able to share it with anyone else. Now, if you stick with me until the end, of course, we're gonna use Vercel, and through that, we're gonna publish the website on the web so everyone can see it. So stick with me until the end. Now, here are a few issues. The model is trying to start the local server, but it seems it's not working. It's not asking us for anything, so we're fine. 9 times out of 10, Claude will figure it out. It will try again, or it will try a different approach, and I love that. Now, I've used this tech combination in the past, and I know that resend is gonna need a key. Just to remind you, when someone fills out a contact form and sends it, an email has to be sent to the clinic, right? For that to happen, we need a service, a provider that can help us send that email. And in our case, we chose Resend. Resend is gonna help us. We've made an account there, but we need to connect Resend to this specific project. And that's done through a single key. Now, the model is gonna ask us for that key. We're gonna handle that, but at a later point. I just wanted to explain the process. I love the fact that this model is chatty, that it tells me how the build is mostly successful, and that it has some warnings it has to look at. This is fantastic. And that's because this is a thinking model, so it's a bit more expressive. Now, I can only imagine how hard it is to be a developer, having to know everything by heart, having to remember everything, having to use Google quite a lot. I think it's incredibly difficult. So I'm very happy we have Cursor on our side. We gave it one single prompt so far, one single enter key, one single request, one single credit. And so far, it's made lots of progress. Just check on the left side to see how many files it made. It's thousands of lines of code. I'm more than happy to pay 4 cents for such a crazy amount of work. It's fantastic. But of course, after about 25 actions, the model is instructed to stop. Now, some say it's because Cursor wants you to consume more credits, so it's a financially motivated decision. I don't think that's the case. Other people say it's a good idea for the model to stop from time to time, so you can actually review the work and put it back on the right track if it messed up. So, no matter what, in our case as vibe coders, without any technical knowledge, we are gonna hit the resume conversation button because we want it to continue. We've made quite a lot of progress, but it's normal for the model to stop after 25 steps or so. We have to resume the conversation, which basically means we're confirming we're on the right track and the model can continue. But here's the thing, immediately after we click, here's one of the biggest issues with Cursor at the moment. It says connection failed. Please check your internet connection or VPN. This is really frustrating. There's no issue with my internet and I don't use a VPN. This is a very well-known problem. Cursor is working at it, but at the moment it still happens from time to time. The forums are filled with lots of people complaining about it. Now, this is not confirmed, but I do think this might affect our project. When the model stops mid-sentence, when the AI is forced to stop when it had planned 5, 10, 15 other steps, it's not ideal. Sadly, the try again button will not work no matter how much you click on it. You may try, but it's not gonna work. Now here's the thing, I do prefer to try to click on accept all, which is hidden behind it. That's so we can save all of the progress so far. You gotta pause for the moment, wait a few seconds, and then finally, if you click fast enough, you can accept all the changes. That's what I recommend you do as well, though I know that may be quite tricky. This is what I meant by saying that we're early. These are the issues that come up that may annoy you. Fact is, you gotta be calm and try to continue. In this case, to fix it, there are 2 choices. Make a new conversation or restart the program. I'm gonna go for the second option, so close the program, wait a few seconds, then restart it. Then, of course, wait a few more seconds until it loads up, and you're gonna see the previous conversation and the issue. The only thing that we can do right now is type in continue, and this will work. The model is gonna analyze the project, the progress made so far, and it's gonna try to continue. Now, is this horrible? No, of course not, but it's not ideal either, because the model does continue. It still has lots of things it still needs to do. But yeah, I really hope that on your end, you can try to avoid this issue. I hope you get lucky, at least for your first big project. But you have to know that as you work more and more in Cursor, this is going to be inevitable. I'm going to speed things up until we get to a save point, so to speak. Now, one thing that I love is having a file called project status, where the model tells us what's up. That's very useful, and it's a good idea to glance at it from time to time and see what the model did, what it achieved. Now, I'm not suggesting that you read actual code, but it's a great idea to get used to how these models operate, how they work. Through vibe coding alone, it's unlikely that you're going to become an actual coder, but that's actually not the objective. We can, however, build cool stuff and launch products, launch websites. That's the goal. Okay, let's skip ahead. Okay, here's the summary, and it's massive. There's lots to go through. The model tells us a lot about the progress that is made, but I'm just gonna find the address of the website. Localhost 3000. Copy it and then paste that into your browser. So let's have a look at the website. That only took us a few minutes and a couple of prompts. Sure, some issues, but yeah, I think that's fine. And yes, I'm quite happy with it. The first impression is awesome. To be fair, the prompt was in English, but for whatever reason, the model made the website in my own local language. Funny enough. Now, I guess that's because of the address that I put in. Funny how that works. Now, we can translate it later on, but yeah, that's something to note. The website does look professional and quite modern. I'm not sure why the photos don't show up though. That's something that we gotta fix as well. Now here's the thing. The goal is to learn from every mistake. Unless you go through several projects, you can't really gain that valuable experience. So I welcome all issues, all bugs. For example, all the images from Unsplash are huge, both in size and in weight. Now ideally, we would have optimized them. We could use TinyPNG, we could use iloveimg.com, but because we skipped that, maybe that caused this issue. Maybe that's why it's not working. My advice for the future is you take precautions. For example, here with the language, I just assumed it would use English because the prompt was in English. But as you can clearly see, that's not correct. That's not the case. So that's the approach you need to take. You learn through these small mistakes and you adjust your approach. Ideally, sure, the model would be smart enough, but it can't read our minds. So the next time around, you have to mention that you want the website to be in English and you should optimize the images beforehand. And though for the mobile version, you can actually resize your browser or you can use a hotkey. This is for the Firefox. You can even choose different phone sizes, but the important thing is you look for major issues, spacing issues, alignment problems, things of that nature. But yeah, Claude 4 typically does a good job. And yeah, overall, I'm happy. It's not a fantastic design, but it's very solid, and I think most businesses would get more clients through it. Okay, let's take a quick break.